the article you referenced in Scientific American is one of many activities that have come out of Scala, right? That liberal education also applies to the sciences and to engineering. Because ultimately, if you look at the biography of scientists or meet with great inventors like we did on the trip that I talk about, we met with an inventor named Lino Dainese, a scientist inventor in Italy who's invented airbags for motorcycles that blow up when you fall.
Airbags for motorcycles?
Yeah. Right?
That's actually, once you hear something like that, you go, well, of course.
Yeah.
But I'd never heard of that
Well,
before.
and he described to the students, right? I mean, it was like meeting a modern day Michelangelo. And he described to the students where his inspirations came from studying nature, from studying animals, but also how really the greatest scientific inventions are simply, they're both technologically sound, but they also point our hearts towards the infinite. That's what he was saying. And it was like being in the presence of a master, right? So even if you look at all the greatest scientific innovations, like my friend Carlo Lanciolati, who's a scientist, has argued, people like Albert Einstein, the greatest scientist in the world, were driven by this creative imagination and intuition. So the idea that science, that the world is rational and ordered, has to be met with the creativity of the human person.
Okay, that is a big statement. I have talked about this in different ways, sometimes more obliquely, but it's a big issue because there are scientists today who are scientistic. They're not scientific, they're scientistic. They've made an idol of science, and they say that there is no knowledge that we can get outside of scientific inquiry, which is patent nonsense. Everybody throughout history has known that there's more to the world than what we can find with our senses or with the scientific method. Everyone knows that science has limits. Science can't tell us why. And, when you're talking to scientists who get that, it's a rare and a beautiful thing, even for a scientist to talk about the longing for the infinite or for meeting the infinite, even the idea of what is beauty. Do we have souls? Do we long for something beyond this world? And does that, as C.S. Lewis said, imply that maybe there is something beyond space and time? These are really important questions, but in the university today, they seem to really strongly shy away from asking those questions, but you don't.
No, I don't. And I think one of the problems in the university, which is described so well by John Henry Newman, who was recently canonized, is that the temptation for academics who know a lot about one subject is to then interpret all of reality through the lens of one field.
Right.
The scientific method is about empirical observation and testing and understanding the material world. That's wonderful. When the scientific method becomes a pseudo-philosophy of the immaterial realities out there, it's crossed a boundary, and it's asking questions that the scientific method cannot answer.
Well, but there's an irony. In other words, they're being decidedly unscientific in doing so.
Of course they are. And when you point that out, some of them recognize it. So what I say to students is that if you want to build a motorcycle that works, you should listen to people who understand motorcycles. And if you want to talk about beauty and truth and goodness in the human soul, you should listen to 2,000 years of wisdom that has been preserved and tested and thought about. And so you need to take the time to study and to think and to engage with the tradition around these questions and not dilettante around important questions of who we are as human beings any more than you want your medical doctor or motorcycle engineer to dilettante with these products that could save you or kill you. What's happened now and what's really characteristic of the modern world is that all of our reasoning must begin with the material reality being something we can control and manipulate rather than something that's been given to us, that has been created. Now, that may sound like just, I'm just playing around with words. No. This is an extremely significant change in thinking in the modern world. Because when I take my students through Scala to monasteries that have preserved these traditions of wisdom and learning, monasteries are very grounded in material reality. They're farmers, they build things, they make things, but they see material reality through a classical understanding as both having rational, ordered, intrinsic principles, which modern day scientists want to affirm, but also being gifts of a creator that actually teach us about what that eternal reality is. So when we're riding on a motorcycle at 350 kilometers and wearing an airbag that explodes, we're not only experiencing a feat of engineering, we're experiencing a feat of the human soul that's longing for the infinite. And that's what the inventor told us. And as a Christian, the answer is that longing for the infinite is fulfilled through this eternal relationship with a creator God with whom we will rejoice in all eternity.